and it'll tell me. And we are a go. Hello, Arianna Swietlinski. We were practicing before. I said it right. Thank you for doing this and welcome. Welcome to That's for Company podcast. I wanted to connect with you and I'm excited to do so because we met through business networking, etc. And we started chatting and discovered that we both are entrepreneurs. We are both having our own business adventures, and we are both ADHD. Yes. And I love that because, well, first of all, I can relate. And second of all, in going through this process, in going through my research and such that I do when I do my topic focuses, the more and more I started researching, the more and more I'm coming into contact with men and women that are entrepreneurs that are ADHD. And I'm starting to really get so fascinated by this because it's more common than I think, which tells me.
Sorry, it's actually one of the highest passed down hereditary traits. So
yes.
My thought process is one day we're going to take over the world.
100%. Mm-hmm. I think we are, because now that when I got my diagnosis, and then it just became sort of what you attract, right? So then I started having these conversations and I started meeting more and more people. And one of many commonalities, but one of the biggest commonalities is a couple of things. We are phenomenal multitaskers in a variety of ways. And we all have some type of entrepreneurial interest, if you will. So thank you so much for doing this. And I can't wait to start this conversation because I think it's an important one. Mm-hmm. And for those that are not as familiar with you, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I am a local realtor. I just bracket myself under entrepreneur because I do a lot of different things. I'm a stand-up comedian, and that has now turned into producing shows with my business partner, Mark Trinidad. And so we produced comedy shows locally because we saw the demand for it. He's also ADHD, and
there
him and we work well because we're
right.
Right. So
yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so and again, I also think I just want to also squirrel for a minute. We say it so casually, just well, I also produce shows, and I'm also a realtor, and I also, I'd be like, oh yeah, whereas yeah, of course you do. Whereas we would have this conversation in front of someone else, and they would be like, what? Are you kidding me? What do you mean? And also you do this. It's crazy. And that's also part of it too, growing up, and we'll get into that. But growing up, I always had that. It was always so much. I was doing too much. And it was are you crazy? What do you mean? And in my head, I'm like, what do you mean? How are you? What do you mean? This is normal. How do you imply that I see any other way to do this other than the hardest way possible, or with 100 balls in the air juggling? What do you mean?
So it's actually something I get asked a lot, or I've actually had a lot of people reach out to me and say mm-hmm. it's admirable, or it's they love seeing how I'm juggling being a mom along with being an entrepreneur. And they all say, I don't know how you do it. Some days I don't know how I do it, but I think it comes with sacrifices. Yes, my sacrifices are sleep. I don't sleep, and I forget to eat a lot.
So. Yeah. Oh my God, we are so going to get there, honestly. Because yes. And I always get, how do you do it? How do you manage that? And I'm not over exaggerating when I say this all the time. I have no plan. I don't have a plan. There is no plan. I do it. Now, the one thing that I have come, because you had mentioned burnout is real. Burnout is very real for all of us, but I'm saying in the ADHD umbrella, burnout is a real thing. And I've had to, over the years, and then becoming a mom and kids and the beautiful highlight that they are of all of our idiosyncrasies, just highlights when you become a mom. And you're like, oh my God, that's me and a little person. I need to work on this.
It's so
that's
I always say to my husband that I see myself in my oldest, especially. I've got him going to get his ADHD diagnosis because of the school. And I'm always like, wow, I'm so annoying.
Right.
Oh my God, just like, let's go. I got stuff to do. And he's like, well, I forgot my shoes. Or we're like putting his pants on. He's like, I got to go get Pokemon cards. I'm like, right now is not the time for Pokemon cards.
Oh, Arianna, how much that, and just, that is the hardest thing for us is transition. Whenever we have to leave, and I mean this every day. My God, my husband and I were having this conversation this morning. Like getting up, getting ready is okay, it's manageable. But then actually leaving to go somewhere, to go into the car, like we are always late. Like we just are, and it doesn't matter how much we prepare because we're getting into the habits of preparing. We're late because then all of a sudden it's like my son, like, well, I have to go to the bathroom. Your shoes are on. I asked you that 10 minutes ago. Oh, mommy, I want to bring a toy. 1 sec. And then he'll go, I'm like, this is not the time. Like it literally, that is the hardest thing is just getting out the door. And then I'll remember something. And I'm like, oh, there it is. Where it's like, oh, mommy, I'm going to get this. I'm like, crap, did I grab that? And then I'll go. And it's like, oh my God. Anyway.
That was actually for me, one of the hardest parts of ADHD is parenting because I don't like being interrupted, and my little minions, they interrupt me constantly. And so I get overwhelmed, but it's also brought me on to a journey of bettering myself as a parent, as just a person in general. So I take it as a grain of salt in a way of improving myself because
absolutely,
man, parenting's hard.
Yeah. And then, and me, it's sound. And
sound.
It's gotten worse for me over the years. I've personally noticed because if it gets too loud or if too much is going on at once, I become overwhelmed. Where like we do quiet time. Where it's like mommy needs 10 minutes of quiet time. And they kind of, now we kind of embrace it and like we kind of get it. But in the beginning, it's like I would become so agitated or irritated when they're playing. And like it's actually wonderful. Like they're playing, but for whatever reason, like the pitch it's a weird thing where it's like, it can't get too loud or I have to like decompress or like I have to step out, reset, come back. But then that's very much my own kind of, I need to work on this and not snap or get angry. Like I need to communicate, Kate, mommy needs 10 minutes and I need to go, or like we need to have 10 minutes of quiet time. So I hear that.
One thing I've learned on this journey of parenting too is like, because there is a lot of us, like my mom is ADHD and the conversation of ADHD was never opened up like way back when they didn't talk about anything mental. And so I feel like parenting is very much changing now because of it, because our parents probably did the same thing, but they reacted differently because we didn't have that door open to know what was happening with our brains. And so for me as a parent, I'm just honest with my kids. If there's too much going on and I feel myself getting overwhelmed, because I want my kids to mimic that too, right? So I just say, stop. I'm getting overwhelmed, guys. We need to tone it down so that I can focus, so we can like move along with the task.
Yeah. And did you find that? So when I was diagnosed, my husband was actually diagnosed first, and then I was diagnosed, and then it kind of trickled. But upon my diagnosis and the conversations with my family, it then became very evident in that awareness of how many members of my family have it.
Yep.
And then it was like, and then with my mom, she's like, oh, wait a minute. And then it was my mom, it was my sister, it's my children. And then it became like with one person becoming so aware, it's sort of like you said, open that up to the awareness kind of what's surrounding. And it's very much a hereditary thing where now we all kind of embrace it and joke around with each other. It all shows up differently. Like we all kind of show up differently with our own tics, if you will. But we recognize that about each other. So
I still remember my husband used to laugh at me because I guess I leave cupboards open all the time.
So it's
I was blaming him. I was like, why are you not closing these? He's like, that is you. I'm like, no way. And then he was gone for a week. And then I realized I was like, oh, maybe I am the problem.
I understand. I very much understand. So, I have a question for you. Is entrepreneurship something that you always gravitated toward? Or was it something that kind of happened not necessarily planned. Yes, like becoming a realtor and kind of starting your own business, if you will, as well as all the multiple projects and multiple things. But is that something that you gravitated toward at a younger age or not so much?
I would say I did. I remember growing up in the country, and
Mhm.
I wanted to do a lemonade stand to make money, right?
Mhm.
On a country road. I still managed to get people to stop, but that's where it started. In high school, I was awarded the entrepreneurial award.
Okay.
I took on I had to come up with a business. And I mean, my mom's, I count to it for my mom, from my mom, because she is the one that has basically told me I can do anything I want to. And she's always kind of pushed me towards entrepreneurship. She
Yeah.
says, like, you can create your own opportunities. And she's always has been a strong believer of being self-employed, because if something ever happens, I'm
Yeah.
responsible for it, not somebody else. I'm not dependent on somebody else to feed my family, right? So
Yeah.
I do think it's always been ingrained in me. At a young age, I grew up on a farm, so I had a strong work ethic from a young age.
Yeah.
I didn't go to camps or anything like that. My mom made me go to work with her, early child labor. So she would put me to work.
Mhm.
But to be fair, it wasn't like full child labor, because she would promise me food. And I mean,
Right.
I'm easy. You feed me, I'm okay.
Right.
So, yeah, and then in school, I just took those opportunities that my mom kind of opened my eyes to, and went with it. And then, and after high school, I went to school for creative marketing and advertising. I
Right.
worked at one of the top ad agencies in the world at the time. But I hated living in the city. So then I utilized those skill sets that I had to come back here. I
Yeah.
started my own printing and design business, which I did for quite a bit. And then I hated it eventually. So I stopped that. And then I just kept finding opportunities until I kind of found the one that clicked for me.
Mhm. Now, if I may ask, because I think, and I've definitely reflected on this a lot as I've gotten older, and I look back at school, like when I got my diagnosis and I was genuinely in denial, like I'm like, I'm not ADHD. And I'm a teacher by trade, and I'm like, no, like I would get it. Like I would know, trust me. And like, no, 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 you have it. I'm like, no, I don't. And like, but you do though. And it was like a 5 minute of a conversation with my psychiatrist. And then I started looking back and I started really reflecting. I'm curious to know, what was school like for you when you were in school? Was it something you really enjoyed? Was it something you really struggled with? I'm interested to know what it looked like for you at the time versus obviously now as an adult looking back on
So school was I would say a little bit harder for me,
it. Mm-hmm.
especially in elementary school, because neither of my parents speak French, and my mom threw me in French school, full French school. So not only am I like, I'm going to say slightly challenged in how I absorb information, but now I'm also learning a second language.
Right.
So I struggled in other regards, but I would say I noticed it more in high school. Like, I was a notorious pen chewer, which is a huge trait. I still to this day chew things.
Mm-hmm.
That's my son does the same thing. And I was always the class clown.
Yep.
I struggled in high school with math. Math is not my strong suit. And I remember, but I'm smart. And so I just find my brain needs it to be broken down differently. And
Right.
so I remember in calculus, I got discouraged because I was asking too many questions. And the teacher actually said to me, "Does anybody except Arianna have any questions?" And then I shut down. So I feel
Yep.
like if I would have known then, I would have been better equipped, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Because I didn't know what it was until later in life, right? Like, it's the conversation just opened up more nowadays. And I think it's a positive thing, because for me, with my son possibly having it, it'll just give me the tools to help him navigate school more easily, right?
Yes.
Like, work with his brain. But I do know too that it shows up differently in boys. So I'm interested to see how it shows up in boys. So far, I definitely see a little tiny clone of myself. And like I said, I'm so annoying.
Right.
But yeah, like the saying, you've got ants in, like, do you have ants in your pants? It didn't
Yes.
click with me until I said it to my son one day. I was like, whoa, that's what they mean. Right. Because you hear it as a kid and you're like, no, I don't got ants in my pants. So my kids don't.
It definitely shows up so different for boys and girls. And I think that's why it tends to, not always, I don't want to make the generalization, but with boys, it is definitely more physical. Like my son is the same. And we say to him all the time, like that beautiful boy cannot stay in one place if I chained him. Like he could not, his body cannot, where I could. So as a kid growing up, school was overall pretty, like it was fine. Like I could keep up in the, the advanced classes, like all those things, I could keep up really, really well. But what I now realize looking back is because I guess now I understand, so anxious. And like, I had to do well. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I want to do well. It's like, no. I had to. Like, it's something, and by no means were my parents overly pushy, because they weren't. It was me. Like, it became this sort of perfectionism of it had to be a certain way, or I was not okay with it. And then it's like what it took for that was definitely not healthy at the time.
No, and that's true. And there's definitely quirks related to ADHD that I know now what they are, like the social anxiety, where you like read the room and sometimes like you feel like people hate you because you're reading on cues that are sometimes there, but not always there. And so there's those types of things. And I remember being called stupid in high school, which I don't think I'm stupid. But I think it's because I didn't do well at math. But I don't feel like it was just, I don't know. My husband and I have this argument all the time because math just makes sense to his brain. And I'm like, you can't draw a picture. So like,
there you go.
Draw a picture, right? So I remember, I remember being called stupid, and it kind of stuck with me. And I just think it was because school wasn't geared towards my brain, essentially. And so now that I've gotten older, and I feel like technology has really helped the ADHD brain, because now I can get all the information I require fairly simply. And it's also, there's a lot of places that break it down. I don't know if you're on TikTok, but there is a trend about ADHD math.
No, I don't think so.
It like blew my mind, because I was like, that's why I count that way, the way my brain breaks down numbers, because it just, it was interesting to me. TikTok has really helped me understand my brain, and then come up with tools and techniques to work with the way my brain operates.
Absolutely. For me in school, I was never called stupid overtly. However, I was always told, you're too much, Cortez, too much. Or like and same thing, I would ask questions and I had to talk it out. I had to work it out. So it's like, and I used to get, you're just re-explaining it to me. Like you obviously get it. And it's like, no. Like, I don't know that I have it. I need to talk it out. Like I need to have this out. Like I can't just hear it and then know it and know that I know it. Like I have to confirm it. And then I won't forget it. And it was always like, I asked way too many questions, and I was told that repeatedly. And I always got, it's too much. You're too much. And that's the thing I try so conscientiously, even with my kids, to never, like, it's okay, ask, because like, I know what that did. Like I always felt stupid because other people would be told one or two times and then they would move on to the next question. And I'm just like, and then I couldn't let it go. It's like, no, like I can't go to 5 until I know that I understand number 4. And then,
I'm the same way. Yeah, I totally get that. And I just remember being called squirrely. My sister-in-law, she still laughs at me to this day, because I was the kid that I still am. And I think because I was raised with brothers, I'm slightly more aggressive for a female. So like I would run down the hallway and like slap people's butts that were my friends, or or I'd like jump on them and tackle them. And it's just, I thought it was normal because that's just who I am. Even to this day, it's who I am. So.
Wow, that's I'm a hugger. Like I touch, like
Yep.
and that became like we had to, even in business where it's like I really fixed and worked on like my like bubble, because I'll get like even social cues, like I'll get right into someone's face like, hey, how's it going? And I've had people be like, oh, okay, and like back up a little, like, oh, I did it, like where, because like I'm just so like, let's hug, like let's like I'm like that, and whether it's cultural or so, you know, ADHD, both, whatever. I've had that too, where they're like, space, please. I'm like, absolutely, please tell me, because I may not pick up on it. And professionally speaking, I need to work on that. So thank you very much.
Well, the funny thing is too, I'm the same way. I'm very much a hugger.
Mhm.
Comedy, for example, because it calls for it. I hug all the comedians. They go in for handshakes, and I hug them. I can't help myself.
Right.
But I find too, like, I don't like people in my bubble, and I'm very much a being in other people's bubble.
Me too.
So it's just funny because I hate when people are too close to me. I like back up, and like, but then when I'm in their face, I'm like,
Hey
hey,
guys, how's it going? Hey guys. And like with my girlfriends, or like, again, he said close friends, I'm just sometimes I think maybe just too open. I don't know, where I'm just, I'm just, I don't want to say too many stories. It's being recorded. Anyway, so yes, where I have to, you know, really make sure that I'm in a safe and comfortable space.
Yeah.
Now, as an adult, and I'll share if you share, what are your, I don't want challenges? Sure. I call them ticks. Like I know, like especially in business, there are things that I have to do with clients, or things, emails I have to get to, or they pile up. Like there are things I do as an ADHD'er that I need to work on. So one thing I will share is I procrastinate and slightly avoid, to a point where then it's like, uh-oh, like now I'm playing, like this isn't good. Like my emails are piling up, or I have to send a text. I'm not sure how to say what I want to say. So I just don't until I really need to. And then it's a panic. And then I like jump in full force. So it's like, I won't clean or my house, let's just say, for a week, 2 weeks. And then for 2 days, I am cleaning to the point of crazy town. Like I'm cleaning inside of cupboards, and then I'm like getting into everything, and then I'm in hyperdrive. But for like a week and a half, I don't even see the dust bunny. But then all of a sudden I see it, and then it's like I have to clean everything. Same with business. It's like the emails or text messages. Like I've had to really figure out when I work best, when I'm the most productive. It tends to be in the morning, not so much after dinner, even though I'm a night hawk. It's this weird kind of like thing that I've had to really get my hands on as an adult. So I'm curious to know what are challenges, or I call them ticks, that you experience.
I would say I have a lot of challenges. But thankfully, being an entrepreneur also kind of works in my favor. I'm the same way. I super purged my house yesterday. I was cleaning it top to bottom. I run a very tight ship in my house because I cannot thrive if my house is unorganized. And so like, I was in the midst of making a video because my office on a Monday morning looks like a bomb went off. There's things everywhere. I know where everything is, but I have to take the morning to organize my space and my house. As soon as my kids are out of the house, I'm vacuuming, because that brings me a sense of calm that allows me to focus on it. Because otherwise, I'm like, okay, well, especially working from home, I think it's extra difficult because I'm like, okay, well, those dishes in the sink that I have to do, they're still there. But thankfully, I'll do the things that I know I can do. And then like my husband is an absolute saint, and he will do the dishes when he gets home. He tends to focus on cooking because I absolutely hate cooking. And then those things also give me peace of mind. So having him in my corner is super beneficial too. He's just learned that I'm just slightly crazy, and he's adapted with my crazy, and we work together. But mine would be is the out of sight, out of mind mentality.
Right.
I would say, um, I struggle with relationships because I tend to hyper focus on work so much that I get to have a social life outside of work, which I'm okay with because I love working so much. Like, to me, working is kind of a hobby.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
When I find any spare time, I do it. Organization is hard for me.
Yep,
My husband
absolutely.
says I have a system in place that only makes sense to me, but it does.
But it does.
And if it's even off, like if there's a Monday morning, so Sundays, I focus entirely on planning my week. I prep myself for the morning to give myself that time to organize. But I stay up way too late. Like, I'm up till 2, 3 in the morning. But then I know when I go work today that I can do what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I just essentially adapted that, but now I just have no life.
Yeah. Relationships, I think, are a big one, because it is literally, without being funny or quirky about it, like we forget to have them, because we become so enveloped in what we're doing. We enjoy what we're doing because we focus on it so much. We enjoy it. Otherwise we wouldn't kind of be hooked in. And then we go on to the next thing once, that kind of how our patterns are, that like, I literally forget the last time I saw my girlfriend. And then I'll message her. And it's really important, back to what you said with your husband, just the supportive networks that you have on a personal level and a professional level as well, because we get so busy that we forget. And then I message them, or like sometimes I made a joke with one of my girlfriends where we don't even message each other because we get so busy and so much time has gone by, and it's like that awkward, like, hey, it's been 2 months, but like, miss ya, right? Like, what do I say? So what we just agreed with each other, we talk only in memes. Like, we'll send each other like gifs in memes, or gifs, and we won't talk, because neither one of us knows what to say, because we recognize how long it's been. And then I'll send her a meme with like a cat and say, hey, miss you. And she'll send like a dog of the same. I'm like, okay. And then it's like that, it opens that conversation, and then we start chatting. But it's like, it really is a thing where I don't remember or realize until a certain point how much time's gone by. And I'm like, what have I done? Like, that's like not work related or family. And also we have small kids, and that's not family related or work related in like the past couple of months. I don't know. And I'm like, that's not healthy. I'm like, okay, need to make time for that.
Well, I've just come to terms with it. Like, I don't know. I just, like, I know they say like ADHD is a deficit, but I don't think it is. I feel like I just see it as a different way of thinking, essentially. And obviously some people, their ADHD is more challenging than others.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've just learned how my brain operates. I've come to terms with it. And then I've just put in place techniques that work for me. Like, I'm very much list oriented. Like I said, thankfully for technology, it has really helped. I don't think I could be an entrepreneur way back when, if with this brain, is because now, like, I've got 3 calendars, for example, because I need to be able to look at my calendar at all times, or I will forget. So I've got one in my kitchen. I have one that I bring with me that's in my book, like that I write physically in. And then I've got my calendar that's on my computer and on my phone. So no matter where I'm inputting it, I have to triple check all of those to make sure I've written it somewhere. And that's probably chaotic for most people's brains, but it just works for me. I make a lot of like alarms, like this morning, because I work really late at night. I don't like to send emails or text messages because I don't know who has notifications on, for example. Sometimes if I know, then I'll send it. But like, I don't want to be texting my clients at 3 o'clock in the morning, because that will wake them up and they'll get angry. So I've set alarms. And again, it might be unconventional for some people, but it works for me. As soon as that alarm goes off, I see it, it's labeled. I do what I got to do. I pre-write everything, and it's organized chaos.
But it works for you. And I want to say this too, because I do agree with you. And especially with kids and seeing it reflected back, as we said, I've really, really started to understand that we're different, and that's amazing. And I call it the superpower, because I started to really understand that, okay, I know I don't always pick the easiest route. Like I know that. And some of this, comes to a lot of self-care that we all need to work on. But I really do think like what we can do is pretty phenomenal. Like what we can juggle and what we can manage, our brains and how we think and how we see things. Like I've really on the journey of self-acceptance and self-awareness, but also celebration, because I think that some of the smartest, coolest people, interesting people have lived these incredible lives. And my mom says you have like a cat, like you have 9 lives, because I've done and I do so many different things because they're interesting to me. And then I want to tackle the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I've really, instead of, again, trying to talk myself and unlearn the too much that I've always been called, it's like, no, I think it's just enough. And it's like, no, it's just enough to keep doing this and to keep things going and to really sort of embrace those parts of ourselves, because it can be isolating, it can be lonely, but to really become self-aware of what is going to work for me, what is going to work for my family is not going to look the same as the next. And that really is okay.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I've just come to terms with my brain.
Yeah.
My best friend doesn't believe in ADHD. He just thinks I am who I am, which I get.
Yeah.
But I tell him, I'm like, those quirks that make me who I am are also just part of the way my brain operates, and it's because of divergency. And I'm like, I know you don't believe in it, but there's a science based behind it.
Absolutely.
That way. And I said to him, like, there's nothing wrong with being, because his whole thing is like everyone's ADHD now. And I was like, because the conversation is open now, right? And so
yes.
I just I just think our brains are fun, but my mom has always been an advocate that it is also a superpower, because I can take on a lot.
Yeah.
It does come with sacrifices.
Absolutely.
But the way that I see it is like there's so much, like I love life so much, and there's like so many opportunities in front of me, and the way my brain works is I'm like, I can do that, right? So
why not? Why not?
And so I'm an opportunist. Maybe the ADHD brain is the opportunist brain.
Yep. And I think when the diagnosis came for me, there was this, and I think this is where it started in the self-awareness. Like I got the diagnosis, I sat with it, and it was this weird, and I feel like, the people that I've talked to have shared something similar with me. There's this relief, and then there was this sadness, or this like, oh, so I'm not just super, super like original or unique. It's like, oh, wait, I'm ADHD? And then it's like, oh, yes, like I made it. Like it was this weird, like kind of like back and forth juxtaposition of like, I was relieved and then almost disappointed. And then it was sort of embracing both sides of it. It's like, I have a very strong community behind me. I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. I'm not too much. There's actually quite a few like me, but at the same time, I show up still uniquely as myself, and sort of embracing both parts of that as well. So yeah.
No, I agree. Same thing as like I'm not unique, and I feel like a lot of ADHDers, we were probably labeled the weird kids growing up.
Absolutely.
I've just embraced the fact that I'm strange, and I'm okay with it. I am who I am. You either like it or you don't like it, right?
Absolutely.
So I can't change it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I have actually my final question before I wrap up, because I know I have to, but if you could give a piece of advice to an ADHD'er and entrepreneur that wants to take on the next adventure, but for a variety of reasons is struggling, not sure, self-doubt, which we have so much of that as well. What piece of advice would you give to somebody wanting to become an entrepreneur and work through their ADHD tics, if you will?
Just know that nobody's perfect. And I think ADHD gives you an opportunity you're going to come across hurdles, and it gives you that opportunity to fail. and then dust yourself off and get back up. In terms of advice, just be ready because it's definitely a whirlwind.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to give advice for entrepreneurship with ADHDers because like I think it depends on the individual because being an owner of a business isn't easy, right? But they do say that most ADHDers are CEOs and business owners. So clearly there's a reason behind it. And it's
We can
probably
do it.
what's probably the fact that we've realized too that like we kind of what's the saying? Fly from the seat of our pants.
100%.
But it allows us
yeah.
to jump on that opportunity, right? And if you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, in my opinion, as long as you can realize you're not perfect and you work on your imperfections to make the experience of whatever your entrepreneurial journey is effective, then yeah, just look deep into ADHD first to figure out what your quirks are because there are so many tools and techniques that can be utilized to take your downfalls and make like work with them essentially
and turn them into an advantage over the competition. It's like I know I see it different, and it's because of that I need to get really familiar with myself. I need to use it because that's my edge, right?
Well, as an ADHD'er, they say too that like we have an ability to reason emotionally with people, and I think as a realtor, that's why I make good connections with my clients because I don't look at it from a business perspective. I look at it from a personal experience, and I'm able to put myself in their shoes, right? And I think that's a tool that not many people are able to essentially utilize. So again, superpower.
And there's a relatability. I think there's just a relatability to embracing that.
Well, with ADHD too, a lot of it comes down to we have a lot of anxiety issues related to it, and so I mean, I think as a whole, a lot of people have anxiety, but again, it's that emotional connection. I really connect with my clients on the anxiety level because a lot of people are so scared that they're bothering people or like doing other things like that. So I just open up the communication door with my clients. And I think it's because of my ADHD that I've done that. And it's just resonated very well with my client base.
We have a saying, well, it's not my saying, it's from Finding Nemo, just keep swimming. So it's like, literally, like I'm trying something new or my husband's trying something new and we get flustered or overwhelmed or my kids. And it's like, just stop, just keep swimming, just keep going, just keep trying. It's okay. You're going to stumble. Yeah, I know. Oh, I know. But just keep going, keep swimming. So it's just become just something that you just kind of, like I said, keep going, you keep learning. Knowing yourself is probably the biggest challenge you'll have is just yourself. And then recognizing that you have a superpower over the competition. And using
and it's recognizing your superpowers. Like with that too, procrastination is a hard one for me. I am an ultimate procrastinator, and I think that's why I'm also up until 3 a.m. most days. But my ADHD, I'm like, I do hyper focus once I've completed that task, and I just knowing that it's my shortcoming, I guess I again put some tools in place to basically knuckle down, and thankfully because I'm self-employed, if I step till 3 a.m., at least I get the tasks done. My kids are off at school. If I need to take a nap, I can take a nap.
You can take a nap. Oh my gosh, we love naps. That's real. We can't always nap, but we love naps, man. Well, Arianna, thank you so much. I truly, truly appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, have a great day.